own dividend-paying stocks, div payers. And then I also own fixed income products. I also own crypto now, and I own alternative assets like gold and watches. My watch collection's actually done quite well, even though there's been a correction. There's volatility, but I have some watches that have, I bought for 200,000 are worth over $1 million today.
Crypto. So are you still bullish on crypto as an investment?
I am actually, but people get crypto confused with its real potential. Let's talk about digital payment systems, because what's about to pass first, we're days away from this happening, is the Genius Act, which is actually the Stablecoin Act. It was just passed by the Senate 48 hours ago. It's going back to the House. I actually worked on that bill 2 years ago. So if that bill passes, it's really nothing to do with speculating on crypto. It's a new form of payment. So if I wanted to order a watch from Simon Britt, who's somebody I buy watches from, he's a master watchmaker. Right now I have to take US dollars. I've got to get through a know your client prerogative. I'm treated like a criminal by transferring $100,000 over, turn it into Swiss francs. It takes about a week. I get screwed for about 200 basis points in the whole thing. If he accepted USDC, which is actually a stable coin backed by the US dollar, just went public, very successful IPO. I was a shareholder in that company too. That's one of my best IPOs in the last 2 years. The transaction would happen in less than a second, and the fees would be a hundredth of what the costs are right now. So it's a digital payment system. The price it's no speculation on it. It's backed by the US dollar, treasury bills. So it's sort of a new form of digital payment. That's different than Bitcoin, which is a speculation. If you believe in Bitcoin, you think it's a digital gold and you live through the volatility. I believe in both. I believe that crypto will be the 12th sector of the S&P in some period of time because it provides productivity to all 11 other sectors. So the way I own it is I own the exchanges. My exchange, in one called WonderFi up in Canada, just got acquired last week or 2 weeks ago by Robinhood. I'm happy because I think Vlad, who runs Robinhood's great. And now he's got 1 million plus accounts in Canada, a market that he'd never participated in. But the point is, this is never going away. It's going to stay forever. So how do you participate? You can buy some Bitcoin, just like you can buy gold, buy it in an ETF or actually own it yourself. You can buy the exchanges. You can use, you can buy Circle stock now, it's public. Circle makes USDC. You can buy USDC in an account and make 4.1% interest on it right now. So there's a lot of ways to participate, but yes, I'm here to stay. But I've grown up. I was around during the period where the crypto cowboys lived. And I survived that all. And I even testified in front of the Senate and the House and whatever else the testimonies were during the tumultuous period. And most of those guys went to jail.
Your portfolio in terms of Bitcoin allocation or crypto allocation, what is it now?
It's at about all in. We marked to market last month. It was 19.1%.
19.1%.
Yeah, I have to keep it under 20. It's a sector. So, but remember, in that is the cryptos itself, the Bitcoin, the USDC, and the shares of the infrastructure companies like Circle and everything else. I've got, it was a very successful IPO.
One of the first things most people do when they get a bit of money, usually from their job, is they get a mortgage on a house. Because we're kind of taught as we grow up that the best way to make, or not maybe the best, but the most obvious way to create wealth is to buy your first home.
Yeah, there's a very basic rule for that. And I understand it, and I did the same thing. But what I made sure again from my mother was never let the mortgage and the cost of maintaining the house be more than 1/3 of your income. 1/3 of your income. If it's more than 1/3, you bought too much house. So it's better to buy a house maybe it's only going to be 1,900 square feet to start in a neighborhood that you may not want to stay in for the rest of your life, but start to accrue the benefit of real estate from that point of view, learn how to manage it. Maybe you rent part of it out or whatever, but it can't be more than 1/3 of your income. The mistake that people made, and they're starting to suffer from it now, is when money was so cheap, mortgage rates were under 4%, they were 3.2%, some of them. They bought massive houses. And now they're running into having to refinance those houses at much higher rates, more than 7%. And it's becoming 60, 70, 80% of their income. They're screwed. They bought too much house. So it's about making sure that you can manage that. And also you want some diversification. Yes, a mortgage is okay, particularly if you're having a family, because you're going to pay rent or you're going to pay a mortgage, one of the two. But you want some diversification into starting to build up that investment account for when you retire so that you have something to live off. If you only put aside 15%, if you're making $70,000 a year and you put 15% aside from when you're 25, you'll have over $1.5 million if you just invested it in the stock index, in the S&P 500. That's what history has told you.
In what time frame?
Your whole career. I mean, you're going to be 65. You're 25, 65. You just stick with that protocol, and you'll watch it grow. You'll watch it grow. You go up and down as the market goes up and down. Some years it'll go flat, whatever. But it's the people that don't even think ahead and find themselves at 45 mired in debt, including a mortgage. You want to get rid of your mortgage in your 40s.
Most people's primary investment asset is the house they buy. Is that
Yes,
smart?
it is, but it's also the debt they own. It's a primary asset. How much debt does it have on it? It's only the equity value is the asset. So if you're buying a house that's too big and you've only put down 10% and it's 90% mortgage, what do you really own? You really own the 10% at whatever price it is. Sometimes housing goes flat for a while. It's okay, but it's not okay if it's too much house.
If you're a 25-year-old and you're on that 70K that you talked about, and your objective was to make money, you don't have kids, you're not in a relationship, would you buy a house?
No, I wouldn't, because why do I need a house unless I'm renting it as an income property? I'm buying a house because I'm getting married. I'm going to raise a family. I need a house. I mean,
is that the use case for buying a house, you think?
I think it is. People, but it's not. There are many people that say, I love real estate. I'm going to buy 3 houses. I'm going to rent them out. That's a different business. And I know people in their 20s that do that. In fact, they're successful. That's all they do. And so that their job is to find houses, buy them, fix them up, and rent them. And they manage that geographically tight portfolio. It happens a lot in student housing, for example. I've got a good friend who's involved in student housing. He's very successful. He just focuses on one aspect, buildings that rent to students, and he manages it. And he, raises a family. He's successful, but that's one thing he does. That's not the same as saying I'm going to buy a house because I just got married and I'm going to have a child in the next 24 months. Then you should have a house. But if you said to me, I'm single, I want to make money, I wouldn't buy a house. That's not the number one asset class, I think. I'd get a diversified portfolio and just ride the pony with that for a while until I meet that special person I'm going to, raise a family with. And then I have a little nest egg I can work with. I mean, wealth creation comes down to one word: discipline. That's it. The ability to look at something and say, I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to keep that money working for me. Not many people have that discipline. Wealthy people have that discipline. You meet them later in life, you realize when they were young and had nothing, even the ones that were employees their whole lives that are now financially free, had the discipline to say no. There's so much stuff you don't need. And you should never buy a watch unless you can afford it. Ever go on debt for a watch, because people hear this stuff, say, I'm going to buy watches like O'Leary with red bands. No, you're not. That's why I wear watches now that cost under $500 to show kids, you want to get into horology, you don't have to spend, $50,000. Here's a Timex for $265. It looks beautiful. Get that.
You said, don't buy the house until you meet your partner, etc. How much does the person that you fall in love with have an impact on your finances, your money, your chance of success, in your view?
It's everything. Are you kidding? I mean, it's everything. If you think about this. You need to find somebody. If you're an entrepreneur, so we're talking about the third now that want to go on the rocket ship ride. You better find somebody that's willing to tolerate the fact that you're never home for the first 10 years. They're going to raise a family by themselves because there's no balance in life. That idea of balance is complete bullshit. I mean, it's just bullshit. You have to work so hard to compete globally these days in every sector. You're going to work your ass off. And it's not going to happen Anna Skaya did it in 3 years, but she had worked much harder previously. It was not her first deal. But she was just lucky. I mean,
was this the cat DNA?
The cat thing. Yeah. I mean, but she's working again. She's back. She wants to work. I mean, that's what happens. You never stop working. But the thing is, that partnership, and this is what people don't get about marriage. Marriage is a business. I know people go nuts when I say that, but it's a business. And the first child you're going to have is money. It's going to be the first child, and it's going to sit at the table with you every day. It's there. sitting there. If you don't have money, you don't have a marriage. I mean, the reason people get married is to form a form of financial stability so that they can afford a family. And you have to figure out, I've been with my wife a long time, and we've been separated for a couple of years, but family is very important to me. So we got back together again, and our daughter got us back together, and we're very happy we did it. But we make financial decisions together. We always check in. Anything that's material, if we're going to do a renovation or something, and I respect her for that. I have a lot of respect for her because she doesn't just spend money. We didn't have any money when we started. We had nothing. And so that's why a great marriage can work, because you build it together. You really care about it. You care about your family. You also care about what you've created in wealth. And I consider my money her money, because she was the family that let me go and do this stuff. Now, I don't have the same relationship with our kids that she does because she raised them. But that's the thing you give up, and you have to give something up. That's it. You can be a great father, a great provider, but you're never going to have the closest that she had reading them stories when they were young. I wasn't there. But, the outcome has been good. I think everybody looks at that and says, all right, that's great. But my mother never believed in entitlement, and so I don't believe in it either. I'm not gifting my kids a ton of money. I want them to launch, and they've done that successfully. They gotta work. They gotta do their thing.
I've heard you say before that the most important financial decision you'll ever make is who you'll marry.
Yes.
Why?
Because think of the geometric loss of wealth. Every time you get divorced, you pay the woman that you divorced, or man, and you pay the government a third, often through capital gains and liquidation, because you can't separate all the assets without liquidating them sometimes. So you've got the government sitting there, you've got the other spouse sitting there. This is the stupidest thing you can ever do. It took your whole life to actually create this nest egg. Could be, you're 45 or whatever, you've got a comfortable life, and all of a sudden you don't like your wife or husband? Think about that for a while, because you are going to wipe out up to 2/3 of your wealth. You better really like somebody else a lot. And frankly, sometimes it's not the other person that you're divorcing, it's you. You're the problem. If you're getting married for the third time, you're a guy or a woman, it's not them, it's you. There's something wrong with you. And you should probably not get into another economic union. You should probably just date till you drop dead, because it's stupid. Marriages are tough. I mean, they're tough. Anybody who's been married for more than 20 years knows exactly what I'm talking about. But they accrue more benefit than anything. So if you're happy 51% of the day with your wife, stay with him or her, husband or wife. That's very important.
How often do you think divorces are a result of money issues?
Well, you may be shocked at this. I wrote a book about this, and I decided Men, Women, and Money a long time ago, 10 years plus, right? There it is. And I did some research, and I went to meet some of the top divorce lawyers in North America, in New York, in Boston, and other cities. And I said, look, I want to kind of do a pie chart of the reasons for divorce that 50% seemed to end in divorce within 5 to 7 years. Every one of them, they didn't know each other, said it's not infidelity, nothing to do with it. Most marriages can survive infidelity. They can't survive financial stress. And so what happens invariably is you fall in love, but you didn't do any due diligence on that person's spending habits or their financial history, because l'amore is so wonderful in the early days. You didn't do any diligence on their family or them or their brother or bankruptcy in the past or whatever it is. And then you get married, and the euphoria starts to wear off, and you notice that the other is outspending you, just buying a lot of stuff beyond your means. And that starts the first friction. And then that credit card comes in with $100,000 on it at 23% interest, and another purse was bought or whatever the hell it is. And you're starting to sink, because you may have married somebody who can't stop spending. This is just a typical. There are people that have no discipline. They just can't. They got to have the boat. They got to have this. They got to have that. And they pressure their other to say, look, I want to keep up with the Joneses next door, even though they may only each have a salary of $100,000 each. Can't do it. And they have kids and they're trying to put them through college. That's divorce. That's why almost 90% of unions break up is that classic financial pressure. And divorce gets them out of that mess because they can no longer spend on your credit card anymore, but it's a horrible way to go. So I'm an investor in a company called Hello Prenup that does divorces prenups for women. And prenups force during the euphoric period diligence. It's that simple. You're going to find out if that person has a financial problem going into the marriage. They have to disclose their financial background.
So you talk about these 5 love languages of money. The mooch, someone who won't pay for anything.
Right.
Should I date someone like that?
It's a warning signal. It's a problem.
It's a problem. So
or they don't really want you for companionship. They just want you for financial support.
The spendaholic, someone who always offers to pay for everything to appear popular and successful.
Bad warning sign. Huge. I mean, that is insecurity measurable by cash outlay.
The loafer, someone who has no ambition and drive for money.
Avoid with extreme prejudice.
The thief, someone who steals.
You can have no tolerance for that.
And the meanie, a balanced spender who lives within their means.
Love that. Marry a meanie. That's it. Those are the marriages that last an entire life. That's it. That's what you're looking for. That's great advice right there. Whatever the book costs, that's the best value right there. And then ask yourself, am I dating one of these or not? You should talk about money on the third date. Think about a date. Think about dating. First date. Oh my goodness, this is a really interesting person. Or not. Then there's never a second date. Second date, I want to learn more. I'm really interested. You're going into a third date. There's something going on. There's something going on. You both want to meet again. That's the first time you should say, look, I know this is crazy, but we're here together a third time because something's going on here. And I'm just wondering, what are your long-term goals? I mean, it's not about our marriage or anything else other than we're having a great time, but what are your ambitions? I'm really interested in you. I'd like to know what you think. And maybe the woman says, or the guy says, what, are you checking me out? You say, yeah. Yeah, I'm really interested in you. It's a form of finding out if the connection, I should be a marriage counselor. That's what I think. I mean, it's really, dating is the dance, but it should involve exploring where we're going financially.
For many years, you've probably seen this iPad sat in front of me. You've probably wondered what's on it. And I make notes in real time. AI can pathway ask. So I asked TDoCeo. I've built companies from scratch. It takes
internet economy, every aspect of research, every aspect of internet. I'll tell you why. I want to keep it down to earth because I'm actually using it now in use cases. There's every sector of the economy, every aspect of research, every aspect of business has a huge opportunity here. But let's just take use cases that you would understand, everybody listening would understand. In today's post-pandemic world, most businesses have developed, large and small, direct-to-consumer strategies where they try and build relationships with customers and sell them product direct. Yeah, they still use retail. Say you're Nike or something, and you were 27%, direct-to-consumer before the pandemic. You're now 50%. And direct-to-consumer gets you higher margins, but also gets you data, gets you information about the preferences of your customer base, what they like, what they don't like, the flavors, and what they buy, when they buy, where they buy it, all that stuff. And it's very interesting, that data. And let me give you an example, wine business. If you think about the wine business, the challenge of a 1,000-year-old business, you don't know what the weather's going to be like. You don't know what varietals to grow because you don't know what the preference of the customer is because you're selling it through multiple tiers of distribution. During the pandemic, 43 states in America opened up direct-to-consumer sales from the wineries on the West Coast. For the first time ever, the wineries found out what people buy, where they buy it, when they buy it, what they drink, what varietals. And I'm in the wine business. I sell 3 million bottles a year of wine. One of my companies, actually a Shark Tank company. And we partner with a company called QVC. We sell online. And so I can tell you today, this month, this week, the #1 varietal in southern Florida for women ages 44 to 64 is Moscato, a sweet wine. I think it tastes like shit. I don't care what I think. It's the #1 wine right now. And I knew that to make that varietal available 6 months ago so that I would be able to ship it and put the inventory, the CapEx, in the right place at the right time to support that demand for the rest of this summer. A sweet, cold Moscato wine. That means I spent a lot less money and a lot less risk. I don't have any varietals they don't want this summer. I have exactly what they want. That was AI. It cost me virtually nothing to get that data. 5-10 years ago, it would have cost me $1 million to go do all the market research. I got that for $18,000. So that's using an AI tool. Here's another example. So do I use that tool? 100%. And there's many tools. You don't have to just use chat. There's many different competing platforms. So we use them all. We check the assumptions by checking it all on all of them, see the little variances. Number 2, I have to shoot an ad. I have to shoot a commercial. I'm going to shoot it here in LA. I'm going to do it in a studio like this with a green screen, and I'm going to spend, $250,000 for a 15, a 30, and a 60 out of the same shoot. And I'm then going to go into post with the green screen, and I'm going to spend more money in post. I'm going to add whatever I need, whatever background I'm going to need. Or I could fly to Dubai, where they have a giant studio with a 6K digital wall where AI links up your script to the background. There is no post-production. You basically shoot the commercial in 4 hours and it's done. The background's perfect, the imagery's perfect, your script is perfect. And I did that 2 weeks ago for the first time. I'd never seen that before. We did it for a fraction of the cost of what it would have cost to do it in the old way in post-production. But then I'll tell you what freaked me out. They reshot the commercial without me there using Kevin Agent.
An AI view.
I wasn't even there. And just to show that they could produce a new commercial with the same background for $9,000 that would have cost $400,000 from scratch.
So there's going to be a lot of job disruption then, because as you said,
You don't say.
I thought
But
that
on the
would-
other hand, I've now got content for that particular business. I was shooting I've got content for that particular business I was going to shoot that commercial for. And I said, guys, let's tweak it and shoot it again. He said, yeah, we'll do it in 2 seconds. We'll send you the 15 seconds back. I said, I don't like what I said there. Can I change what I said? He said, yeah, well, do you want it in Spanish? You want it in Japanese? You want it in Arabic? That's the power, the productivity that we're going to get. Our budgets for producing content are going to drop dramatically over the next
and
year.
software and everything else, right? Creating everything is going to get
Now, full circle to your thing about the chips. That all came from NVIDIA chips. That's not from Chinese chips. Whoever controls the chip and the honeybees those guys are all Indians and Pakistanis. They're genius mathematicians. That's the team over there running off that platform. If we had anyways, I'm just freaked out that we got to control that. We need democracy to control that.
Your children, what are you saying to them though about their professional ambitions in a world where creating stuff like that and, whether it's who do you want to do your taxes, an accountant or an AI, who do you want to do your legal documents, who do you want to do any sort of like white collar job, make your videos, edit your videos.
I tell them, everybody's got a lot of angst about AI. I tell them, listen, everybody chillax, it's a tool. It's the same classic thing where radio was going to be displaced by television. Radio's bigger than it ever has been. It doesn't matter. The one thing I concern myself with AI is warfare. And I think the country that has the best AI and data centers and the most advanced chip technology will win the wars of the future, which will be fought by drones and robots. I know that sounds kind of crazy.
No, it doesn't sound crazy.
That's where
it's happening now.
That's where it's going to go. So when I solicit the ear of a senator, I try and explain to them my honeybee analogy, saying this is about defense. I don't want to live under authoritarian, I know we debate the whole political environment these days, but I don't want to live around Chinese honey. I just don't. And those are going to be the two superpowers. You're in one vertical. Either you let the Chinese make the honey on AI, or we make the honey and let the Chinese buy some honey from us. I know where I want to live. I know what I want to do. And I think I can convince a lot of senators the same idea, because you got to understand the Wozniak Jobs analogy that you brought out earlier. That was the genius of Jobs. Make the honey, but know who the queen bee is.
The genius of Jobs brings me to a question I've wanted to ask someone like you for a long, long time, which is, do you think Apple is dead?
No.
You don't?
No, I'll tell you why. It's so interesting. People don't understand the genius of Apple, because this is, again, came from Jobs. He used to say to my team over and over again, and I mentioned earlier, they don't know what they want until I tell them. And I always, just as close as you and I are right now, you're Steve. I say, Steve, how the fuck do you know that? How do you know that? You don't know that. You don't know what you don't know. He said, show me where I'm wrong. Show me one instance of us working together where I'm wrong. I said, it hasn't happened yet, Steve. Doesn't mean it won't. Get back to work. Don't worry about it. I'll worry about it. You make the software. I have the chips. Make the software. Go make the honey. I have the queen bee. Don't worry about it. And that is pretty interesting, because you got to prove it that he was wrong. Now, let's accelerate. He's dead now. But the philosophy of Apple, and I'll give you the way you look at it. I can go buy a $330 laptop right here with the same processing power of this $1,800 Mac laptop. Why would I spend $1,800 when I could buy this for $300? Why? Brand. I want to be part of this universe, this honey right over here. The Apple Care, the fact that the OS works on all the platforms and the messages are shown on all platforms simultaneously, all the OS, all the honey. That platform is the power of brand. I'm not leaving this universe. And Apple is one of the world's largest companies. And you may say, oh, an innovation is going to make everybody leave that platform. I don't think so. They let other people sometimes bring in a new market, and then they take it over. And I saw Steve do that multiple times. He did it with the phone. I was around for that. That was crazy. I mean, he had the vision that we would someday run our software on the phone. I said, you're out of your mind. The screen's too small. He said, no. You're going to go vertical. You're going to rewrite all this crap vertically. I mean, I can't fault him on anything, although I kept telling him, you're going to get it wrong one day. You're not going to be right all the time. I can't find when he wasn't right. That's the frustration, because I teach this, to a bunch of really smart kids at Harvard, of which, by the way, a third are international students. And they say, well, when did you catch him? I said, I didn't.
What was he doing? Did he have a practice or principles that allowed him to see around the corner?
He spent a lot of time at night, even studying fonts and looking at art and focusing on the signal. I think his wife talked about that a lot. She spent more time with him than anybody else, although Woz talks about it a lot, because those guys spent countless hours together. But Jobs defined, he would take instances from nature into his head, or from Japanese, scripture or text or imagery, and redefine it into technology in a way that no one else was doing. And that's the idea of the honey and the bee and the queen and all that stuff. It kind of comes from his view of the world. And I don't know if you can understand this, but because it came from nature, it was easy for people to assimilate it. It wasn't foreign. When they looked at the imagery and the design, he tried to pull from pleasing images from nature, like the fonts on the first Macs. I remember when we were writing the code for that saying, Steve, this is not what people are used to seeing on a computer screen. He said, no, it isn't. That's what's going to work. If you think about the very first scalable fonts, I saw that first. And I said, Steve, this is almost foreign. He said, well, how does it make you feel? I said, it makes me feel pretty good. This looks like it's on a piece of paper. I don't know, you weren't even born when this stuff was happening. But he was so far ahead. And this is the same way Elon is redefining whether it's, SpaceX or whether it's what he's doing in neurosurgery or Tesla or, all of these initiatives, his satellite technologies, they are the same, those guys, except, Elon's 100% Signal. I said that earlier. They are the same, and they're treasures. They're national treasures. It doesn't matter if you like them. It doesn't matter what their politics are. It's irrelevant. The contributions they're making to society and to America, frankly, and the competitive nature of countries. That's why I thought it was so important that Trump make up with Elon. The most powerful man on earth should have a very good relationship with the richest man on earth because he's the largest industrialist on earth.
Maybe there's like an inherent inability by way of them being who you just said they are, the most powerful man on
But they
earth.
know, they're smart enough to know. It's the same way I felt about Jobs. I'm getting back on the plane this quarter. I know he's going to beat me up, but it doesn't matter. It's the greater good is that we get this software out there, advanced math and reading scores.
Was he happy, Steve?
I don't know the answer to that
Do
question.
you think he was a happy person?
I don't know. I never saw him happy. He was always barking at me. I never saw him happy. I don't think I ever saw him laugh. He may not have been, that's probably something his wife would know, but he looked like a tortured guy to me. But, that may have been his curse.
Do you love him?
Yeah,
I can see it in your face.
100%.
I saw a lot of emotion in your face the first time you spoke about him, and I thought that's surprising for someone that barked at you.
Well, he respected me, that's for sure. He wouldn't execute on my ideas. He expected me to execute on his, but he was never wrong.
Where did the emotion stem from?
It brings me back into that room with Heidi Rosen and all the crazy crap. It was just nuts. And, I'd have to spend a lot of time. The only meeting I really remember, the one that really sticks in my mind, when we were in Cupertino and we were just, we were going after him for 18 million or something. And Heidi was there.
Who's Heidi?
Heidi Rosen, she's a famous venture capitalist, but she was also kind of the muse, the person that could actually deal with Jobs all day long at Apple and bring him back to earth when he was out of his mind. I'll give you an example of how that would work. And I've seen her since, it's I don't even know if she remembers this particular. Anyways, we leave. He's barking at me. He's got one of my product managers in tears because she wanted to do the market research. He said, no way, we're just going to do what I say. And she just felt like her job was useless. And for him, it was. He just didn't give a shit what she thought. Although she ran the universe of Oregon Trail or something, some massive title, like a huge multi-million-dollar title on the Mac in every 110,000 schools in America. And he was so pissed that, in these old buildings, they have a little window where you have a little knob and it only opens up 4 inches so you can't jump out of it in a hotel or something. So we had a Hertz rental and the whole team's going out. I'm going to drive the car back to San Francisco. I'm going to fly back to Boston. And he undoes the window and he's got his head stuck in there. He's yelling at me from I'm looking up at him and saying, what the fuck? What more can you already kicked us out, And then on the way, we had these old the earliest cell phones, these brick phones. Heidi calls me and says, okay, he'll do it for 12 million. I said, Heidi, why do we have to go through all that shit? Why do we even have to get abused? She said, why is the sky blue? Just get back on the plane and go do it. It was a huge hit. It's a huge hit. The guy was, if you looked at it he could write the hit songs. That's what he did. You write the hit songs. So you don't, even if you hate the producer, you want the guy that can do the hit songs, right? If you're an artist, you put up with a crazy producer.
Could he not have been nice, do you think?
Not in his DNA. No.
Do you think if he was a nice person, he
Now,
wouldn't
you know what he would say about that? That's noise.
He gives a fuck.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. No, being nice is noise. That for him. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about him, but I think there's a lot of lessons learned from him that I think managers today, parents today, certainly CEOs today, you're about, this show's about CEOs. I wish every CEO had spent the minimal time that I spent with Jobs had such an impact on me. I mean, I owe a lot of my success to him because I always think, what would Steve have done? And I make decisions like that. It's amazing. The guy's still around. I bet you if you talk to, any of the management at Apple, they have that ghost in those rooms, for sure. Including the current CEO, who I think was doing a phenomenal job. He spent so many hours with Jobs. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Nobody spent more time in business than that guy, for sure.
I asked you a second ago if Steve Jobs was happy, but are you happy?
I get happier the older I get because I'm very comfortable. I found a place, that I'm, and this may be just what aging does. I mean, it's just, when I was in my 30s, I had a lot of trauma and turmoil and just, hard time to trying to figure out who I was. And I also suffered from dyslexia, which I've come to think of as a superpower now, not an affliction. But it was kind of like, it's hard to know what journey you're going to be on until you find it. And then I found it. And then I started on a new journey. And it's something where, you ask yourself, every day goes by, and this noise and signal thing, and how much of this day was I happy doing the things that I wanted to do? And I am very happy if I measure it by, is there anything that I spend my time doing that I don't want to do today? The answer is no, because I don't have to. And so I don't waste my time. I do, even coming here to spend 2 hours with you, when I first, heard about it, I went online and said, oh yeah, this guy's great. I'd love to work with him. That kind of thing, you allocate your time. This is, I'm happy to do this. I want to be here. And I think, we had a very interesting couple of hours together. But that's the definition of happiness. What concerns me, and my wife often says to me, we don't need any more money. Why are you flying 300 hours a year on an airplane? What are you doing? I said, I'm happy. I'm happy doing this. I want to do this stuff. Sometimes I do 5 cities in a day. It's friggin' crazy. And it's the wonderful thing about, air travel today. You can do that. But it's
sport for you.
It's so interesting. I get so many interesting opportunities. I can't turn them down. They're just such,
Are you driven or are you dragged? You use the word trauma there, and I often ask myself that question because I came from a all-white area. I was the black kid with the strange hair and the strange family. I was insecure. And I think that resulted in this force of will to try and correct the insecurity or to prove something to myself, which then resulted in success.
I think there is no dragged. There's only driven. I don't understand being dragged. Dragged insinuates that you don't care about performance. You don't care whether you succeed or not. You're just being sucked into the void of success. You might be able to say that for a rock star that gets a hit song, but most of them doesn't last. I mean, you need massive amounts of drive. And I love the most exciting thing I like to do is when someone tells me, you can't do that. Like watch insurance. You will never launch a watch insurance company. You will never do that. You will never get around the compliance state by state. You will never launch in the Middle East. You'll never launch in England. Bullshit. That's exactly what I did. I found the right team. I found the right partners. I figured it out. I was passionate about it. And I think I'm going to kick ass. I think in 2 or 3 years from now, you won't be able to catch up with me. That's what I think.
I'm 32 years old. What is the advice that you wish you got at 32 years old, Kevin?
What I have learned, and this is something that you should really think about for yourself, your real value, your real brand are your followers. This army of people that have decided to invest their time in you. You know, you've cut across a vast swath of people. So you influence very successful managers, CEOs, and a lot of young entrepreneurs want to hear what you have to say because they're expecting you to deliver valuable information across multiple sectors. And you also have your own data, but men and women. And so where do you take that? Because, you know, do you want to launch a clothing line? Do you want to sell burgers? Do you want to do consulting? You know, you have all those opportunities, but what fits your brand? And so and you'll get to do this. You'll be approached by a lot of people that want to ride that network you've built. And my advice to you is, because this has really worked for me, is this a product or service that I personally would use, that I would actually use? Because you'll get offered a lot of money to talk about one brand or another brand. They will, and you may be weak and take it. But the minute anybody in your network, in your community thinks you're not authentic, you're fucked. And you know that.
Yeah.
And so you better be authentic, you better be transparent, you better be honest, even when turmoil hits, whatever it's going to be. I found that saved my ass so many times by just saying, here's what I know, here's what happened, and that actually bonds them even closer to you. And that's the difficulty you're going to have, is how much do you want to take because you're going to have that opportunity. But if you stay authentic and say, I'm going to support this brand because I use it. Every single brand or commission I have in supporting a business, I use myself. I'm a shareholder in it, and I believe in it, and I use the product, or, you know, whatever. Like the wines I make myself with my wife, we drink them in our family, and everybody knows that. So I wouldn't drink it if it's shit wine.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, that's my advice to you, because I meet a lot of people, but you're very rare. What you've built, maybe by happen chance that it occurred, whatever alchemy occurred, you have it now. It's yours to lose. Don't fuck it up.
No, everything you said is so true. And obviously the things that we talk about on the show in terms of brands that I promote, pretty much all of them I've invested my own money into.
Yeah.
And this is like super important. So I talked about my Whoop.
Yeah.
If you look at the investments I have and the things I talk about, there's a really clear through line through them. So there's a really clear through line, and it's actually reflective of just where I am in my life. There's actually a sponsor I used to have on this show that I was very big on, and I just stopped. I stopped consuming the product. They offered me £6 million,
Right.
which is about $8 million to continue for another year and a half.
Yeah.
And I said, like, it just wouldn't. I'm about to basically start talking about and investing in the antithesis of what you do.
Yeah.
So I had to turn down that $7 million, which is a lot of money for anybody.
Yeah.
But it's because my life shifted and I shifted in a different direction. People don't see those things. They don't see that this foreign government comes along and offers you $4 million to go and talk about their country or to go do the TDoCeo in their country. They don't see those decisions that you make. But I think hopefully if you listen to me long enough, you'll see a through line between the things that are authentic to me.
Yeah, and
you know?
I think so you've already figured it out. And the other thing that I would do, and say anybody your age, and because I wish I'd done it, is start focusing on longevity in your 30s. Start thinking about what you eat and what you drink and how much sleep you do and how much exercise you have. You could live to 120 years old. I mean,
That's crazy.
You know, it's sort of, if you understand, if you're wearing a Whoop, you know what I'm talking about. It's sort of, I'm very, very focused on what I do and exercise and what I eat and all that. But that makes you feel healthier and more, and just better about your day as you go through it. But the fact that you figured that out at your age, because most people at your age would have taken the 7 million pounds or whatever it was, that would have been a huge mistake. Because now the next product that you do endorse, I will know with certainty that you use it because you told me this.
We have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing who they're leaving it for. And the question that was left for you, funnily enough, I feel like I might have asked it, is where do you believe happiness really comes from?
I think the answer is very simple. Consistently achieving your goals, because happiness is not a destination, it's a journey. That's what it is. So you have to set those goals, whether it's noise to signal, going full circle, what we talked about, or long-term, whatever it is, it's consistently achieving those goals, you will be happy. Consistently not achieving them, you will be unhappy, because it is not a destination. Happiness is not a destination, ever. It's a mistake that's so elusive. I mean, it's just not a destination. It's a journey. That's it.
This is one of the great things you've taught me today and reaffirmed for me today, is this idea of like signal and noise and radical prioritization, because kind of dovetailing into what we were just talking about, when you have a lot of opportunity, it gets even harder, I think, to know which ones should be taking your 18 hours a day. And this is something I struggle with.
You should feel it. You're kind of a weird dude, because you're like a 70-year-old man in a 30-year-old body. Like, you've got the intellect of experience, which most people don't have at your age. But deals, there's a certain feeling that if you should feel that it's a good deal. It should be in your gut. And I've learned this. There's many deals that sound great that when I just do the gut check, I don't participate in. They just don't give me, and that came from experience, but you seem to have that in some weird way to avoid that one we just talked about. It's intuitive feeling that you generally get by having a lot of winners and losers over time. But you seem to have accelerated that somehow. It's an intuitive nature of where you want to get to and what it's going to take to get there, and there's going to be sacrifice along the way. It's never about the money. Never. It's not about the money. It's, it's, do I want to achieve that goal? I'm having it's just a weird thing, because I had a similar situation just a couple of days ago. When somebody approached me and said, look, can you get behind this and back it, and I'll pay you a ton, like just a crazy amount of money. And I thought, do I actually want to spend 1 hour pursuing that? And I went back to him and said, look, no, it's just not interesting. I can't see myself getting involved in that narrative, it was a complicated situation. And then he said, look, how about I give you 2.5% of the company? I said, no. I just don't want to be associated. It's the same idea. It would intuitively.
It was noise.
Yeah, and what that would do is some opportunity you don't know about down the future, that you pursued some goal that somehow tainted your brand, and that opportunity never comes to you. You're the captain of your brand. You have to define yourself right through the journey. It's hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. And that if there's going to be a downfall for you, you will have chosen unwisely somewhere. But it better not be for money. There should never be an amount that you would take, because if your gut says no, it doesn't matter what the money is. Not after what you've achieved. I mean, you don't need to buy a guarantee anymore. You got it. I'm assuming you've put some away. I mean, it's very simple. If you've got $5 million in the bank, you can do whatever you want now. I mean, it may sound, I want more, but that is enough under always. I have an account that just sits there with $5 million in it in T-bills. I never touch it. That's my nest egg.
Kevin, thank you.
You got it.